So RedMagic is back with their tweaked version of the 8 Pro. The 8S now Pro has a overclocked Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. It has some tweaks to the cooling and some other minor changes. It still is fan cooled. It still does have a very large capacity of the battery, which is 6,000 milliamp hours, up to 80 watt charging, shoulder gaming triggers, and a design that I think is one of the best you can get for a gaming phone that's game orientated. You've got things that you want, like those shoulder triggers, 3.5mm headphone jack, a flat screen, and a under-display camera too. And this is what we have included in the box. So they've got this QR code here for the website and their social media sites. We have our Type-C to Type-C cable, SIM tray tool, a warranty card, and they do include a clear TPU case and our charger depending on what version you are getting. It is going to be either 80 watts for the Chinese version or 65 for the international model. Now, I'm a big fan of this design, this phone. Now, it might not be the lightest because it's 228 grams. So yeah, it's a little on the heavy side, but it's got a lot of cooling packed into this. And the thickness, well, it's 95mm, but I think it's good. I really like this design. So we have Gorilla Glass on the front, flat screen, and of course, we've got the under-display camera, and you cannot see it. It's right there, 16 megapixels. The quality will suffer, but in a gaming phone, that's probably not your priority, right? Selfies and vlog footage. And you really do not see this, and it is just so hidden. And it's that flat screen, full screen experience, up to 120 hertz, and it is an AMOLED screen, of course. Now, the resolution is 1116 by 2480. So that gives us just about 400 ppi. So very sharp looking screen, really fast. And I love the bezels on it. I think they look great. The frame around the outside, excellent too. So you can see the antenna lines. This is an alloy frame we have. This is the exit vent for the little fan that's inside. And sorry, that's the exit vent here. So it's pulling that air in, blowing it out the other side. And it does actually make a difference. Now with our cameras, there's no change from the 8 Pro that we have the 50 megapixel main camera. We've got the only 8 megapixel ultra wide and then a 2 megapixel depth camera. Those two last cameras aren't really that great. They're not that exciting either, but the build quality is excellent. So I do have that power button, easy reach right there. And this button on the side here, this is to enter the gaming mode. So you just flick that switch, you go into it, more on that soon. And you'll see we have the capacitive touch sensors here. Now, these are great, and they're at 520 hertz, the touch sensing rate of those. So they're very responsive, really good. And when you look at the top, yes, we do have a 3.5mm headphone jack, dual loudspeakers, microphone there, and our Type-C with video out support. The SIM tray takes 2 nano SIMs. Unfortunately, there is no micro SD card support with this model. That's the only thing it really does lack. So the glass on the back, this isn't Gorilla Glass 5. They don't mention what version it is, but transparent, of course, with this model that I do have. I think hardware-wise, this is a fantastic looking phone and what really a gaming phone should be. Now, the fingerprint reader, I've had sometimes some instances where it doesn't work. When I first boot up the phone, I've noticed this. Of course, you need to enter a password, but once you've already done that, sometimes it can be a little bit iffy, and if your finger is a little dry or something, it might not work that great. To get around this, I do recommend adding the same finger twice, and now it does seem to work really good. Now let's take a look at this display, because I think for a gaming phone it's fantastic because it's flat. There's just that slight curve on the edge of the glass here, and it looks really good. Those slim bezels that either side and even top and bottom and make it really stand out, and the fact that there's no ugly notch or anything. So we have a typical color modes here that are standard. Now the brightness of this AMOLED screen, 120 hertz, it does top out at 1300 nits is the peak. I've not been able to measure that. I've not been able to trigger it for some reason, and I do measure about just over 750 nits, which is still perfectly fine. You can see now in direct sunlight, yes, you can make the screen out. Is it the brightest? No. I have seen other phones that definitely have clearer screens in direct sunlight, but I do think it's an acceptable level. So you've got night mode on there, you've got a lot of different options, and with the refresh rate, this is fantastic. RedMagic gives us 90 hertz. Yes, that perfect sweet spot between fluidity and a little bit of battery saving. And of course, with this model here, we've got a 6,000 milliamp hour battery. So it's a nice, decent, large capacity to keep you gaming for quite a few hours. And I'll get onto the battery life later on, but it is good. So with our UI, I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I've noticed that there are, just with RedMagic OS 8 here, a few little bugs, and I can demonstrate one just straight away. So you go into your camera here, you've taken a photo, and you want to preview it and go, okay, I want to have a look. Watch this. What happens? Crashes every single time. So they need an update to fix that. There's a few other little minor niggles and some things with the translation in the settings I've noticed. And if you use photos, they don't have a gallery app for some reason. If you do use the photos and you try go in to view some of them, it crashes again. So that's two areas where they need to fix that. Something's going on. It's just a minor. It should be easy enough for them to fix. The other is you just see, I can't see just straight off the top of my head. I can't remember where it is, but there's a few areas where I've seen that the translation isn't quite there, and battery stats. And that's something that they tend to miss out, but you have it now. That was missing on some previous versions, but it's there. Now, the UI in general, performance is very good. It is generally really fast and smooth. I occasionally see some of the animations lagging behind a little bit. And of course, you've got your apps drawer there. So it's good. It's just that those bugs, they do need to be fixed, and I'm sure they will be very soon. When you power on your brand new shiny RedMagic 8S Pro, you'll find that there is no bloatware apart from one app, basically. That's it. Booking.com. So that is really good. So many other brands, they put on so much bloatware. You need to literally spend 5-10 minutes removing all that rubbish. Well, here you don't, and Booking.com just took me about 10 seconds to uninstall. Now, free available storage with the 512 gigabyte version I have here is 473 gigabytes on first boot, giving you plenty of space. Remember, there's no micro SD card support with this phone and, well, most flagships nowadays. Battery life at 120 Hz is very good. I found this result to be way better than I expected. And you can game for around about 4 to 5 hours on the top settings, depending on your screen brightness, which is fair. That's kind of normal for a gaming phone, and especially with this Snapdragon 8 overclocked version Gen 2, which is slightly faster. So it's gone from 3.2 gigahertz max turbo to 3.36, so additional performance there. Now the charge time, ignore this right here because that's not accurate. It's 6,000 milliamp hours that it does have. Charge time, 31 minutes to go from 7% up to 100. Very good, really fast. That's at 80 watts, mind you, that I charged that here. And then the internal storage, very good speeds, really quick. That will not be bottlenecking this system at all, nope. And then you see here Camera 2 API support. So if you want different style of photos, Gcam ports, open camera, where you can use those, they are supported across all of the cameras, including the front-facing one. It does have a widevine level 1 cert, so Netflix is in full HD. And let's take a look at the performance because I do have Antutu that I ran. And you'll see that the scores on this are absolutely phenomenal. Look at this. Now, this is the latest version, mind you. So this is version 10. So it has changed slightly. Those scores, I believe, increased a little bit from version 9 to version 10. But still is a phenomenal score here for a device like this to be able to get these kind of results. So really quick, you'll see the big improvement is, I think, the GPU. That's gone up even further. And you'll see temperatures, yes, it did go up 10.3 degrees and lost 5% battery life just from running this single test. But there's no point in having such crazy performance if it's going to throttle. Does it throttle? Well, according to 3D Mark here, this is their Wildlife Extreme test. It's 20 minutes, very demanding, and you can see it only throttles 2.1%. Yes. That is it. It's a phenomenal score. Look at how high this is. That's almost 4,000 points. So if you're a gamer, you're serious about your mobile gaming, and you want pretty much the best performance you can get without any annoying throttling, then this is it. That fan on the back, you can see now with the RGB lights. So this has RGB. You can change it, customize it through the settings, and the little fan in there. Well, that does make a big difference. Not the RGB, of course, but that fan. You can feel the warm air coming out the side of it, and it stops this phone from basically throttling at all. And RedMagic, they have tweaked and improved the thermal performance. So when you look here, you can see that the frame rate, well, it's gone from 17 frames per second to 28. And yes, the temperatures. After 20 minutes of running and pushing this really demanding benchmark, it did get a bit hot, so up to 45 degrees Celsius. I measured the frame around the outside, which is where it gets the warmest, and that did reach 42 degrees Celsius. So it was, yes, a little hot to the touch. That's to be expected. But the main thing is there is basically no throttling at all. And onto our audio now. So I think this is a great phone for gamers because of that 3.5mm headphone jack there at the top is exactly what you need. You've got no issues then with the latency. It is just absolutely spot on, of course, being hardwired, and you can use your favorite set of 3.5mm headphones, earphones, whatever. This is a good option to have. Now the loudness, very loud out of both 3.5mm and the speakers themselves. I'll give you a sample of them, but just before I do, I want to talk a little bit about the haptics, that with the shoulder triggers at the top with general haptics, it's a nice strong little pulse, better than most phones. It's nothing amazing, but I would rate it being great, good for a gaming phone. Now call quality, I've placed a few calls, no issues there. No problems at all. So I'll give you that sample with the gaming mode, which is really quite loud. You'll be able to hear just how loud these dual side-firing loudspeakers, one here of course, one on the other side up here, really are. Now to demonstrate what this phone is really all about is that gaming mode, the gaming features and performance. So when you flick the little switch at the top up, wow, that's loud. You can disable that too, by the way. It then goes into the game mode with some music. Just turn that volume down. And there you have all your settings. So you can add the games here. You've got options for each of them. The cooling fan, that's currently on. You can turn that off if you want, but I recommend it for long gaming sessions. Definitely you want to leave that fan on. So I'll jump into Genshin Impact at maximum settings. We'll start the game here, and I'll show you some of the options we do have and those triggers. When you're in your game and you have the gaming switch up, you just swipe from either the top right or left-hand side twice, and you bring up the gaming menu here. So this will give us a lot of information, a lot of different settings. You got your fan, you got info, the Wi-Fi, do not disturb, touch, everything like that. And I have this widget enabled at the moment. You can see it. So that's what's called info. I find this really handy, very handy, especially if you're reviewing these phones like I am. You see now that the frame rate is 60 frames per second. Now what I've noticed is playing Genshin Impact, even though yes, where I am in the map is not the most demanding, whatever area I am in, it's always 60 frames per second, and it's on the top settings. It basically, just like 3D Mark, it does not throttle, it does not lose performance. It is the best I've seen this game ever run. Now just going back into those settings, if you want to then set up your triggers, which are using touch emulation, you tap here and you have the overlay. So currently I've got the overlays just set that aren't quite spot on. So I can set this one here to be my general attack and this one to be my magic attack there. And that's the left and right. So you can set it up as a single tap. You've got options there for long press, rapid fire, motion sensing, dual operation. A lot of different options here. Really, if I go into everything, this video is going to be too long. So that's that saved, and you see now when I tap, you'll see how quick the reaction to this is. And it makes gaming, once you get used to it, just so much better. You'll see now as I tap, okay, and then I can just do the normal attacks here, and remember to do the magic. So the frame rate, it will be that 60 frames per second. You can see it is barely changing. You see it dip to sometimes 57, 59, 58. But really, this is the best kind of performance you're ever going to get out of the most demanding Android games. And of course, everything in the Play Store will run perfectly fine with this. And as gaming triggers, I really like them. I think they're great. And then this screen, look at those bezels, nice and slim, no ugly notch, no cutout. This really is, I feel, the best hardware you can find for a gaming mobile. So here is our weakness with this phone, and that is the front-facing camera, especially video performance. Because it's got to look through the under-display camera, it looks blurry. You're probably thinking, hey, this guy just hasn't cleaned the lens. Come on, it can't be that bad. But that's unfortunately what it's like. So if you don't take a lot of selfies, you don't take a lot of front-facing camera video, then it's going to be ideal then for you, because you won't ever be probably using this camera. So for front video, it's 1080p maximum here, and you can see that there is no electronic image stabilization, so it does kind of shake around all over the place. So not the phone for front-facing selfies or vlog footage. The rear camera, you can shoot 8K 30, and we do have 4K 60. I'm currently shooting in 4K 30. And the quality is alright, but the cameras, they have improved, yes, over the years. RedMagic, I've got to give them credit where due, but they still do fall behind other flagships. The focus here with this phone, as intended, is the gaming performance, not so much the cameras, but hey, at least we do have this option. Now, I've not noticed any problems with the focus. I cannot zoom back over to the ultra wide because the ultra wide camera, it does not support 4K 30. You do have to go into the Pro mode to get video using the ultra wide. For some reason, just with the standard video mode, it doesn't show up, only that main camera. And probably due to this, because the quality of the ultra wide video, I think, is quite poor. As for our camera samples, well, this shot here of my cat Vera with the main 50 megapixel camera, pretty decent, not bad at all. This one out in the marina, a little bit oversaturated. That's the trend with the main camera I did find. As you can see with this shot here of my daughter. Now the portrait shot, stitching is okay, background blur all right. Again, oversaturated. Look at those colors. It is just overdone a little bit. It's almost like Samsung from a couple of years ago. This is the ultra wide, not looking very good. A lot of grain and noise. And then the front-facing camera, selfies, ouch, yeah, not good at all. The front-facing camera, just because it's got to look through the screen, not good. And low light, as you can see from this example, absolutely terrible, the low light performance. I don't think I've seen this bad in a long time. So overall, it is, as expected, been an S model, a tweak and improvement over the original 8 Pro. There's not much of a difference between them. But if you want the best and you demand to have the absolute best performance with your games, you're really into mobile gaming, then this is it. You cannot get any better when it comes to the performance that the RedMagic 8S Pro is going to deliver here. So I didn't really see any throttling at all. It maintains those frame rates. Yes, it will get a little hot around the outside, but the fan is doing its job. It's not a gimmick. There's even a bit of RGB bling in there if that is your thing. What I really like about this model is the design of it. The frame around the outside, the dual loudspeakers, the 3.5mm headphone jack, the fact that it's a flat screen, so not a curved AMOLED, 120 Hz, and it's using an under-display camera, so no ugly notch or cutout, none of that. But the trade-off is, of course, the camera. Front-facing camera performance is poor. It's not great, as I showed you from my samples. So if you're someone that takes a lot of selfies, vlog footage, then clearly this is not the phone for you. It's gamer focused. The rear cameras as well, it's kind of like a mid-range level, not fantastic there. And then I did encounter a few little bugs in the UI that need to be ironed out. So that is the full story there of RedMagic's 8S Pro, the tweaked version of the 8 Pro. It really is Android's best gaming hardware that you can get right now.